It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Yo, how you guys doing this evening? Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Welcome to the HVACR videos live stream. So for the new people, my name is Chris. I'm just an HVAC service technician here in Southern California, and I make these videos on YouTube just to share a little bit of knowledge that I have. I started making them for my own service technicians, and then quickly, about the second video, I decided to go ahead and make the videos public. And here we are now. It's a trip. I never expected it to do what it's doing. I never expected it to turn into this machine that it's become. But it's fun. I enjoy it. It's very easy, though, to let it get away from me, and I'm trying to not let it become a burden. There's times, sometimes where it's like, man, I don't want to edit a video today, but I've been trying to make sure that when I do make videos, I make them the way that I want to make them, and not how other people. JJ Service says, thank you so very much for becoming a channel supporter. That's awesome, bud. I really appreciate that, okay? But I try to make these videos the way that I want to make them. And it's cool. You guys can always send me suggestions. That's cool. But, I get people saying, hey, why don't you do this? Or, hey, you should have done it like this. No, because I kind of want to do it my way. I want to do it my way. Even when it comes to the sponsors and people that I partner with, right now, the sponsors for the stream or for the podcast, I don't do a podcast. The sponsors for the videos are Refrigeration Technologies and Sporlan. And both of them are really cool in that when we started talking and everything, we kind of discussed look, I'm going to do this my way. I don't want to be dictated. I don't want anybody to tell me you need to do this, you need to do that. And neither of them has ever been like that. They've always been great companies to work with. Both of them I have supported long before they became channel sponsors, long before. Okay, Refrigeration Technologies, I've been promoting their products for years. Well, 2 years to be exact, because my videos have only been going on for 2 years, but I've been promoting them for the entire 2 years. And then the same thing with Sporlan. I've always been a Sporlan user, Sporlan fan. So, anyways. Hey, hopefully you guys are doing well. Right now in Southern California, we're having a crazy heat wave. And it's a trip. It's blowing my mind how hot it's getting. I am about, I'd say, 6 hours away from Death Valley. Okay, 6.5 hours, something like that. They reached 130 degrees. They set a record in Death Valley. Naka, thank you so very much for that super chat, bud. I really, really appreciate that, man. Connor, I guess I should call you Connor. But yeah, they hit a record of 130 degrees in Death Valley. That's insane, okay? And that's not in an attic. That's just in the desert. Now, granted, where I'm at right now, we probably at the highest have hit 115 for a very short amount of time. We haven't gone any higher than that. About 2 years ago, we broke a record and hit 120, but we haven't hit that yet. But it is just plain hot. We're starting to get a little bit of humidity rolling in, but again, in Southern California, we don't know what humidity is. It's so minimal. Right now, I think the humidity is like 26%. You know, so if we get anything over 50% humidity, we lose our minds in Southern California. So right now we've got some monsoonal moisture kind of rolling through. We've got thunderclouds over the mountain areas and stuff. And when that happens, you usually get a little bit of humidity, especially if you're working on the low desert, like the Palm Springs, Coachella Valley area. I haven't been out there in the last couple weeks, but I would bet that it's a little bit humid out there as usual. But, you know, it's also very strange because we haven't been very busy. And I don't know about you guys. I think I saw someone in the chat kind of talking about this, but we've been doing okay. I mean, everybody's working, but it's not the same, you know. But granted, California's still shut down. The restaurants are shut. Luke Grinder, thank you so very much for becoming a channel supporter, bud. That's really awesome. So the restaurants aren't fully open, okay? They're doing outdoor seating, which that's insane. These restaurants, people are going to these restaurants and sitting out on the patios when it's 111 degrees. I mean, more power to them. We're getting refrigeration calls from the restaurants, and we're getting air conditioning calls for the kitchen, but very rarely do we actually get dining room air conditioner calls, which right now would be slammed normally. So this is definitely an interesting time of year. It's definitely a whole new game to get used to. It's crazy. All right. So let me see what I got going on in the chat right now. Oh, right on. Yeah, Ernesto too. Ernesto says the same thing. Philip, thank you so very much for that super chat. I really appreciate it. I'm going to address this right now just like I normally do. You guys with these super chats, becoming channel supporters, it is awesome. It is very much appreciated. Definitely helps us support the channel. But those of you that don't do it, it's okay, okay? I appreciate any help, but don't worry. I'm going to continue to do these videos. Don't feel obligated whatsoever, anybody. Those of you that do it, thank you so very much, okay? But again, I'm going to continue to do these no matter what, okay? All right. So I've got a good list of things to talk about as usual, and we're going to get to the chat too, all right? So the last two videos that I released this last week, let me address this too. So someone had asked me, what is my normal schedule? Because I do have a schedule with the videos. I try to stay consistent as much as possible, okay? So obviously, we do live streams Monday evening, 5 p.m. Pacific time every week, work permitting, so long as I can get off work in time. And I release a new video 2 times a week. I typically do videos Thursday afternoon, so I usually make them go public around 12 p.m. Pacific time on Thursdays. And then Sunday mornings, usually around 6 a.m. Pacific time, I release another video. So you get 2 videos a week, and I try to stay consistent with that. Every once in a while, I throw a bonus video in there, but for the most part, it's 2 videos a week, okay? So that's my schedule that I try to maintain. It's definitely interesting. It can be challenging at times to maintain that schedule, but I try my best, so... Kyle H, great question. So Kyle H had asked if there was any blackouts near me, and yes, there have been, and actually that was something I wanted to bring up. So right now in California, our power grid is being taxed to the limit, okay? As usual, every summer we have like what they call flex alerts and different things like that, where they start doing rolling blackouts and they go to certain neighborhoods and shut off power for certain amounts of time because our energy grid is just totally being used up right now. The infrastructure is just a mess. We so need help with our energy grid here in California. Now, with that being said, that's on a normal summer, right? Right now, all the kids are still at home. They're home all day long. They're doing school. They're running air conditioners. Or, you know, everybody's home. So yeah, we're having some issues. Now, I have not had a power outage, cross our fingers, at my house yet, but they have been rolling around all over the place, all around here. Adam, thank you so very much for that super chat, bud. You need to stop with the super chats, Adam. You can plug the overtime show anytime you want. So yes, the HVAC overtime show on Friday. Don't let me forget, and I'll plug it some more here in a little while. Distracted me with that super chat. Thank you very much, Adam. You get me all blah, 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 my head starts to spin. But yeah, so we haven't had Steven Montanez. Thank you so very much, man. I really appreciate that. So yeah, we haven't had a power outage here at my area, but it's been all around me, to the point that I actually went and bought a backup battery for my computer, basically a UPS. I think it's what it's called. I have it. Yeah, UPS. I went and bought a UPS. So that way, just in case I'm editing or something like that, it'll at least power my computer down. But I just hooked that up just because it's happening everywhere. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised, being today's one of the hottest days we've had, if we have a power outage, you know? So it's definitely something to think about, but not in my house have we had it yet. So yeah, Stephen Knorr, there's definitely a lot of political issues in our state for sure. Okay. Yes, I agree. There's a lot of political issues. So something I want to remind you guys, and I have to say this every couple live streams just to make sure that everybody understands. You know, I do these videos, and I appreciate any feedback you guys leave in the comments. I really do welcome all the feedback. Negative or positive, I'm totally cool with it. Criticism, I learn from criticism. So please, criticize away, okay? Let me know if you see something I should do better. It's all good. I'm cool with that. I don't ever delete criticism. The only comments I ever delete are when someone is just plain nasty and they're bashing other people. I really don't care so much if someone bashes me, that's cool. But if someone's just being completely rude to other people, I'll delete those. And the number one comment that I delete in my videos all the time is when people try to guess restaurant names. And I know people don't mean anything by it for the most part. People are just like, hey, I know that restaurant. I worked there. Here's the name. Okay, guys, I have to protect my customers as much as possible. What the normal general public thinks is nasty is really not that bad in the grand scheme of it. I typically don't work in very nasty restaurants. Occasionally we have an issue or something like that, like they had a roach issue, but they solved it. They resolved the issue. But most people don't understand that. So I always try to protect my restaurants. I do not reveal restaurant locations ever. And to the point that even if people in the comments are trying to guess what restaurants, correct or incorrect, I delete those comments, okay? Please don't try to guess restaurant names. We're trying to keep these videos going, and we don't want to out any restaurants or anything like that, okay? So we gotta, you know, keep that private, basically, okay? So those are the only ones. So I do have to remind, you know, because some people try to guess all the time, and I know most people don't mean anything by it, so. Let me see. So the last two videos that I had this week, the first one on the 13th was the beer walking was too warm, and we had a bad contactor on that one. It was single phasing the compressor. It was going off on thermal overload. After I changed the contactor, I found that the condenser was really dirty, so we went ahead and cleaned that condenser properly. And then we went ahead and found a refrigerant leak on the low pressure control. But while I was in there, I noticed that the suction service valve was really rusted out really bad. So that ended up being a big giant call where it spread out over two visits. And we got the approval from the customer to go ahead and get that system back up and operational. So that was a big beer walk-in. And that was the one, I'd worked on that before, but the head pressure control valve had been cut out. Now, we really don't need those really that much here in Southern California, so I didn't bother putting it back in the system. I just leave it out. It's no big deal. I did get a lot of questions about the lamp cord going to the condenser fan motor, so that is something that I have brought to the customer's attention. But right now, with everything going on, it's working. They just want to leave it that way, and in the future, we'll address it. Now, they will approve it immediately. They basically told me, look, try to conserve, try not to spend a bunch of money. If we don't need to fix it right now, don't. But they basically put it at my discretion. If we need to fix it right now, then so be it. Do what you have to do. But, you know, I'm trying to protect the restaurant too. You know, I want these guys to be here tomorrow. So if I can save them a couple bucks now, I'm going to do so. We'll save that for a little bit later. I realize that that lamp cord has been there for a while. But again, the customer's aware of it. And it's operating. It's just not my favorite thing in the world. I have a couple of those issues here and there of things that like don't necessarily have to be fixed today. So You know, we try to be as conservative as possible with these customers because, yes, I'm in business to make money and I want to make money, but at the same time, I want these customers to be here tomorrow and continue to call me tomorrow. So, you know, I got to look out there for their best interests as much as possible too. The video after that was on the 16th, which was Sunday. The reach-in cooler had the click of death. So right when I got there, you guys saw in the video that I could hear the clicking sound of the compressor overload of the clicks-on relay turning the compressor off. The reason why it was doing that was because the unit had a bad start capacitor. Okay, the start capacitor failed. Now, what caused the exact failure? It's hard to say for sure. A lot of the times, in my opinion, the start capacitors fail because they're in really hot ambient environments and these units short cycle. They go on and off a lot because when the restaurants are busy, they're opening and closing the doors and it wears out the starting components. That's my opinion. I do not have scientific proof to back that up, okay? So I went ahead and threw a temporary capacitor on there just to make sure that the compressor was working. I went ahead and used a turbolytic 50, okay? A lot of people don't realize that AMRAD manufacturing makes a turbolytic start capacitor or turbo start cap, right? All of us probably know about the Turbo 200 and the Turbo 200X, which are the universal run caps by AMRAD. Great capacitors, great warranty on them and everything, but they also make a start capacitor. They actually also make hard start kits for like residential air conditioning condensing units too. Pretty cool little thing. But so I keep a couple of those on my truck, and I use that to start the unit up to make sure that it was working. And then I went ahead and got the factory OEM starting components. Now, something in my comments that people were asking was, hey, how is it that I always seem to come up with these factory starting components? Well, you got to understand that I live in a major metropolitan area, and I have two of our biggest supply houses, actually three of our biggest, the main supply houses that I use RSD, I use Allied Refrigeration, and I use United Refrigeration. All three of them have hubs, okay? RSD is actually headquartered in Lake Forest, California, which is about an hour from me. Allied Refrigeration is headquartered in Long Beach, California, or Signal Hill, which is about an hour and a half from me. And United Refrigeration has their West Coast hub in Ontario, California. Between those three supply houses, they pretty much have everything that I need for all different stuff, okay? So that's how I can get these starting components. Yes, if I lived in a more rural area, I totally understand. It's harder to get starting components, different stuff like that, same day. But oftentimes, I can find some things. But we don't have everything. For instance, today I was working on something, a Copeland unit controller, the little Dixel-looking control for the condensed unit, and I needed a temperature sensor, and we couldn't find one. So nobody had it. We had to special order it. Yeah, you know, we have to learn to deal with that every once in a while. But for the most part, we have a lot of parts readily available here in Southern California. So now on that one, I got a lot of questions too. Why don't I use the 3-in-1 start capacitors? Supco makes them, okay? It's the little 3-in-1. Okay, I'm not a fan of those, and it's nothing against Supco, but here's my 2 cents on them, okay? You buy a 3-in-1 start capacitor or start kit, right? And it's supposed to have an overload, a start capacitor, and a relay in it, okay? And what they do is they typically they're separated by voltage, 120 or 240, okay? And then they're separated by horsepower. So if you buy a 240 volt, or let's just say 120 volt, third horsepower 3-in-1 kit, it's supposed to work for compressors from third till quarter or something like that, okay? But my personal experience has not been very good with those universal start kits, the 3-in-1s, okay? First off, I every once in a while I'll use one just to start a compressor, just to see if it works, but I never leave them on there. I know some people love to leave them on and they say they work just fine. I don't have good experiences like that leaving them on there. My experience too is that if you actually take the sticker off, if you actually disassemble a 3-in-1, and take the sticker off of it that says Supco, there's actually a rating on the capacitor. If you look at the rating on the capacitor, oftentimes it's not a big enough capacitor for most refrigeration compressors that you're working on. Sometimes it is, but that's just my experience, and I've had an issue with that, okay? Jeremy Cole, thank you so very much for that super chat. I really appreciate that. You said that you enjoy my videos as a problem-solving puzzle challenge. Your computer pro... Oh, right on, dude. That's very interesting. I really, really appreciate it, Jeremy. That's really cool. Thank you so very much for that super chat, okay? So that's the last 2 videos that I had. I'm going to address something else too, because I just said it. If you guys haven't already noticed, I have a lot of crutch words that I use in my videos, and I actually spend a lot of time in the editing stuff trying to take out the crutch words. So is one of the biggest crutch words that I use. The other one is okay. I'll start my video, like I'll start a scene, and whenever I turn my camera on, for some reason I either say, so, we did this, or I'll say, okay, we did this. Now that I said that, you guys can go back, and if you didn't already notice, you guys will notice the heck out of them. So I edit those out as much as possible, but it's just something in my head. I call them crutch words, and I use them all the time where I start sentences with so and okay. Don't know why. It's just my own issues that I have, so... let me see what else we got in here. Hello to everybody that's in here. I really appreciate you all that actually come to these streams. It blows my mind right now that there's 300 something people in here watching me ramble on. Thank you so very much. It's such a trip that you guys like to listen to that. John, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. I really appreciate it. And why is there a peepee and a peach, Luca Moore? That's very interesting. All right. So let's see what we got here on my list of things to talk about. A question that I get quite often, okay, and I'm going to address this right now. So this week, tentatively, I should have hats back in stock. And when I say hats, I mean the large, extra large hats, okay? You guys can find my merch at hvacrvideos.com. There's a link in the show notes of this video. I believe the Nightbot or the moderator bot's posting some stuff too. Adam, I'm going to answer that question here in just a second. Yes, don't let me forget to answer that question, Adam. So yes, merch is available if you guys are interested. A lot of people have been asking. I've been selling out really quick. I have plenty of shirts left. You guys can see I have a big stockpile, and then back behind here where you guys can't see, I have a huge thing set up with shirts too. But the hats I keep running out of. So I just ordered another 100 large, extra large hats. It usually takes a couple weeks for them to print them for me. So, but those should be in this week. Tentatively, I should be getting those in Wednesday. So they might go up Wednesday evening or Thursday morning, probably is when they'll go up, and they'll be available. So just stay tuned for that. And again, thank you for those that have already purchased it. I actually have, you guys can see, there's a few boxes right here. There's about 7 orders that my wife processed today that we need to take to the post office tomorrow. But if you guys get those packages, it's usually my wife processing them. She works really hard to try to make sure that everything's correct, and we get it out to you guys as soon as possible. So, all right, let me see what else we got going on in the chat. Oh, I wanted to answer that question, Adam. Adam Neal had asked, on my off time, do I find myself constantly thinking about service calls that puzzle me? Yes. Okay, so... my other friend, Adam Muffich, is in here. A-Team Adam, Joe, HVACR North, Bill, Curious HVAC guys in here too. We do a show on Friday evenings, the HVACR Overtime Show, usually around 6:15 p.m. on the HVAC Overtime channel. Feel free to throw a link in there, Adam, or any of the moderators. Throw a link for the Overtime Show in there if you would. But anyways, the reason why I brought that up was because I was just having a conversation with him. So I was off this weekend. I had another service tech that was on call. And I had an emergency service call that came in for a location that I don't normally service. I actually used to service this location like 7 years ago, but it's about an hour and a half from my shop in the opposite direction of where I normally work, and that call came in. And it killed me because I had to say no to that service call. We weren't able to get out there in time. Yes, I certainly could have dropped everything that I was doing. I was literally reorganizing some stuff in my office, rewiring some things, and I was right in the middle of it, getting ready to start editing my video for Sunday morning, and that call came in, and it killed me. It genuinely hurts me and made me sick to my stomach to have to tell that customer that I wasn't going to be able to help them. I obsess about customers. Now, do I obsess about Adam had asked me, thinking about service calls that puzzle me. Yeah, I mean, I obsess about a lot of things. And, you know, whether it be a service call, whether it be being prepared for the next week, I wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes I lose sleep over the fact that I just wake up thinking about a job. Like, okay, I got this job coming up in months, you know, and it's like I just can't stop thinking about it, and it just kills me. Yes, it does. Whatever that is, I have it. It sucks. It's also good too, I guess, in one way, but it sucks for me because it just messes with my head and screws me up for sure. JS, thank you very much for that super chat, man. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Let me see there we go. There's the overtime thing in there right now. Okay. But seriously, the only answer. Okay, right on. All right, so I got a couple other things on this list. Europe. The reason why I started talking about merch was I keep getting this question: am I going to ship to Europe? Am I going to ship to Australia? I want to, yes, but I have not figured that out yet. Okay. Within my software and stuff, I just haven't had the opportunity to really sit down and focus on figuring out the overseas shipping. Okay. At this time, I ship to Mexico, I ship to Canada, and I ship within the United States. Okay. I do and have plans on shipping to other countries, especially Australia and Europe, because a lot of people have been asking. I just haven't been able to figure that out yet. Okay. So stay tuned and don't feel bad. Keep reminding me. Okay. Keep sending me emails because my brain thinks weird and like I prioritize things and that thing kind of gets pushed to the side. So definitely keep emailing me and I'll definitely work on that and hopefully get it figured out soon. What brand leak detector do I use? Roach had asked. I personally use the D-Tech Select leak detector. I've probably used it for 10 plus years. Several different actual leak detectors. I've had to replace it a couple times, but yeah, I've used it for many years. It's a great leak detector for me. I am getting ready to replace my leak detector. I'm seriously looking at the D-Tech or the Infocon Stratus, which is the newer model of the D-Tech Select, the fancier model because it does a PPM readout and stuff. I'm not going to bite the bullet quite yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting ready to go ahead and purchase another one because it's about time my leak detector is getting worn out. I've replaced the sensor many times, replaced the batteries many times. The wand's starting to get really wobbly, and it's just about that time to replace it. So, but the D-Tech Select is the one that I've been using for a very long time. Dom Hen, thank you so very much for that super chat. That is awesome. You're a maintenance man for a refrigerated plant. I really appreciate the nice comments you have about my videos. How different is an industrial ammonia cooling system versus a commercial one? Other than the size, of course. Well, I personally have never worked on industrial ammonia refrigeration. I've seen lots of videos of people working on ammonia, so there's going to be a ton of safety requirements. Special tools that I know of for sure. You're going to need special vacuum pumps, special recovery machines, because the ammonia is just going to kill everything. But personally, I have no experience. So just the videos that I've seen, it's just a lot bigger. Just the light commercial that I do, I don't work on anything bigger than 35 tons. I guess it wouldn't even compare to the industrial stuff. I probably would be lost if I even walked up to an industrial system like that. And I can guarantee you that I would be lost if I walked into a supermarket rack room. I'd just be like, what do I do? So, let me see what else. You sent me a video of industrial compressors. Adam said that you've worked on, and I do remember kind of a video, Adam. I think I do remember that. Let me follow back on that, but I think I remember you sending me that. Oh, that's a bummer, Dave G. Well, I'm glad for the feedback. So Dave G says don't buy it. I'm assuming he's talking about the Infocon Stratus. That's good information. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Has anybody else have any feedback on the Infocon Stratus leak detector? Dave, I have heard from another person that they had to send theirs back in. My buddy Rookie Refrigeration, Ruben, had to send his back in for repair. I haven't talked to him lately, though, on whether or not he's still using it. Scott, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, do me a favor and hit the like button, guys. I'd really, really appreciate it. What's the key to finding leaks with a D-Tech TechMate? Anyone pressurized a unit to 350 with 410 and found nothing? Nate Peterson, I've never used the TechMate, so I can't comment on that one, unfortunately. All right, let's see what else. What books do I recommend for refrigeration? Edward Ruiz. The one book that I recommend is Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Dick Wurz. This is the book right here. There's a link in the show notes of this video. Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Dick Wurz. Great book, not too thick. And what it does is it kind of just fills in the gaps for an air conditioning technician that wants to learn refrigeration. So it assumes that you understand how heat transfers and things like that. And it kind of lays off that for the most part and really goes into the controls, the sequences, the components and differences between low temp and high temp, basically. So great, great book. I highly recommend it. I got no affiliation with Dick Wurz, but I did meet him at the AHR show. Very nice guy. Very, very cool dude. So great. When was the last time I saw a belt-driven compressor working? Prime time. I haven't seen a belt-driven compressor in probably 12 years. Early in my career, I've never worked on belt drive, actually. I've only seen one at a location that I went to go give a quote on, and they just had belt-driven equipment. I'm rather young, as most of you guys know. I'm 37, so never had to work on anything belt-driven. Now, I realize that in some of the bigger industrial stuff, they still deal with some belt-driven stuff, but I've never myself dealt with it. Let me see what else I'm missing in here. What brand of oxyacetylene do I use, Hvacr or Uniweld? Mo, I think my kit is a hodgepodge between the two. I don't really particularly pick one thing or the other, so I probably have a Hvacr tip on a Uniweld regulator. I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now that I have never been happy, and I've been kind of frustrated thinking about that lately. I don't know about you guys, but number one, I can't find a torch caddy that I like. I mean, I have a Uniweld torch caddy. It's like a blue molded plastic one, and it's kind of the best that there is right now because it has a cubby for your stuff. But I don't know. There's a gap missing when it comes to oxyacetylene torches and the caddies that they sit in and the regulators and the hoses. There's so much room for improvement in those things right now, and I think that I always kind of try to think in my head, like, how could I improve this? This is something that I really would like to see someone improve, because the oxyacetylene rigs are not my favorite. The stupid covers break off of the regulators all the time. The dials break, and I mean, we typically beat the crap out of our torches for the most part. I mean, we bang them around, we drop them, we do everything, and it's just, they should really be more sturdy. I know there's a bunch of different regulators, Western Enterprises I kind of saw, but I really would like to see some in the supply houses. But Western Enterprises, the people that make the VN 500 nitrogen purging regulator that I use, they actually make an oxyacetylene regulator too. I haven't seen one in a supply house, but it looks interesting. But it's kind of weird because you don't adjust it, so I'm kind of tripping out by that. I like to adjust my oxygen and acetylene levels depending on the different torch tips that I have. So I typically braze with the number 2 tip on almost everything, and then every once in a while I'll switch over to a rosebud tip, and when I change the rosebud tip over, obviously I increase my pressure. So something on the Western Enterprises one that you don't adjust, I'm a little bit reluctant to try that, but I don't know, it looks interesting though, so cool concept. Let me see. What brand? I already answered that question. Let me see. Who the hell is dropping their torches? Oh, dude, Frylock, you haven't dropped your torches, dude? Oh, I've dropped my torches off of a ladder. I've accidentally forgot to strap them in my van, and they fall over in my van all the time, and the regulators break. One time I dropped my torches, and I was so scared because I dropped them, like, I think I was going up a ladder, and they slipped out of my hands, and the caddy exploded. Like, not fire, but I mean, the caddy just popped, and the oxygen bottle went rolling, like, not far because it was still connected via the hoses. But yeah, I've beat the crap out of my torch caddies. And then also with the blow molded plastic one, even the bottom is starting to blow out basically just from not even dropping it. Like, I don't know. I'm pretty abusive with my tools for the most part. So, all right. In the video from Thursday, who did I pull a vacuum? Oh, okay, Brent, I remember your comment coming through, and I wanted to answer that. So Brent had asked me a question, why did I pull a vacuum before I changed the dryer? I actually didn't. This was on the beer walk-in repair. But unfortunately, what happened was when I showed the dryer after I pulled the vacuum, like I went over there and I kind of talked like, hey, we went, but no, I actually changed the dryer before the vacuum. It's just the way that I edited it. It looked like I didn't. But yeah. Can commercial HVAC experience apply to residential equipment? Like, can you apply commercial things you have learned to residential units or vice versa? Yeah, definitely. Don't hesitate, any of you guys, to repost your questions. If I don't address them, make sure you put them in caps lock. If I don't address them, keep posting them until myself or a moderator tells you to stop posting them, okay? Because oftentimes there's a bunch of questions that go missed in here that I don't make it to. So please keep reposting those, okay? So yeah, you can definitely apply commercial refrigeration and air conditioning to residential for sure. Okay. So most, a lot of people start when they leave school, they're kind of taught residential in school, right? They don't go crazy into controls and low temp. Some schools do, but for the most part, they don't. So, the natural progression is start residential, move your way up light commercial, move your way up commercial, industrial, that kind of stuff. Okay. I know some people jump and go right into industrial and stuff, but as long as you understand the basics, in the residential side, oftentimes people aren't really pushed into schooling. And if they are pushed into schooling, for the most part, it's sales training and stuff like that. It's not really education to become an HVAC service technician, okay? So in the commercial side, there's not really a huge focus on sales for service techs. For the most part, in my area, there's not focuses on commissions or anything like that. You're just there to be a service tech, maintain equipment, you know, give quotes and that kind of stuff. So yes, you can definitely apply commercial experience to residential and vice versa. You can apply residential to commercial. What's the tool on the top of that shelf? Gray with wires. So that gray tool is a hermetic compressor analyzer. So let me grab it. So this was my hermetic compressor analyzer. Now, obviously, there's a lid to it. I just popped it off so you can see. Now, what this was you were able to, basically, you have an ohm meter right here. Okay, so you can check ohms. You can test a compressor. You hook on these alligator clips to the 3 terminals on the compressor. You have a couple different capacitance values here for a start capacitor. And basically you select the range within your start capacitor. So what you're doing essentially is, if you have a compressor that's not running, you can start it up, because there's start capacitors and there's a relay in here. Well, there's not a relay, but there's start capacitors in here. So you can start it up and tell if it's a bad compressor or tell if it has bad starting components. Okay. So something like this is what I would have used in the past on the video that I released on Sunday. The unit has a click of death. In the past, we didn't have readily available start capacitors or universal start capacitors or 3-in-1s, and we actually used a hermetic compressor analyzer. Next to that, hold on. This is another compressor analyzer. This is an Annie. Now, the one that I just put up, another really cool feature of that one is on 3-phase compressors, you can actually rock the compressor and break it loose. And what I mean by that is, on a 3-phase compressor, sometimes, and usually not a good sign, but sometimes the compressor can get stuck. I might have had this one time in my career. The compressor can pull locked rotor amps and can physically, something inside of it can get stuck. Something's really tight or something like that. And what you can do with that is you can actually, there's a selector switch on there, and you can run the compressor forward and then you can run it backwards, and you can do it really quick and try to break through whatever's stuck in the compressor and get it running. Now, I think I've broken a compressor free one time in my career, and I think we ended up going back and replacing it, but we got it to run through the weekend basically. Okay. So this is an Annie. This was the original one. This is an older one. This one doesn't work for 3-phase, but basically, oh no, this one does. Yeah, you can go reverse on this one too. So, but this one right here, no, you can't use this for 3-phase. That other one you can. This one you can't. But on this one right here, you can start a compressor just like that. It has start capacitors built into it. This is a really old one that one of my service techs actually gave me. His dad found it at a garage sale. I really like old tools, and I like to collect them. I've got a charging cylinder right there too, and I never actually used the charging cylinder, but one of my techs brought that to me too. So I just like collecting the old tools. All right. Let me see what else I got on my list. Great question that I had. How do I know when I'm working on these air conditioning units, refrigeration or anything? I'm going to kind of paraphrase this question and apply it to a lot of different people. How do I know what the vitals should be? So when I'm working on an air conditioner, how do I know what the superheat and subcooling should be? When I'm working on a refrigerator, in the click of death video, I mentioned some rules of thumb in there, okay? Because we have general rules of thumb in our industry that we use, okay, for the most part. And I don't use these as a set in stone thing, but I mean, it'll kind of get you in the ballpark. Your condensing temp over ambient should never be more than 30 degrees. So the condensing temperature difference from the ambient temperature, the condensing temp should never be more than 30 degrees higher. That's a rule of thumb. Newer efficiency equipment, it can be as low as 25 to 20 degrees. Sometimes, I think I might have even seen like 18 degrees condensing temp over ambient on some microchannel stuff. So how do I know that kind of stuff? By reading installation manuals, by talking to manufacturers, by calling tech support and writing down what they tell me. by reading the book Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians. It has lots of rules of thumb in it to kind of give you an idea. I have a rule of thumb that if a system has a receiver and an expansion valve, that I typically want to see at least 3 degrees subcooling coming out of the liquid drain out of the condenser. I'm not necessarily looking for 10 degrees subcooling when it has a receiver, because subcooling kind of goes out the window when we have a receiver, because for the most part we're using a sight glass. Okay, but there's a lot of variables that go into that. So how do I know that? Just from experience and doing lots of research, talking to manufacturers, reading installation manuals, reading textbooks, different things like that. Is 700 to 900 microns close enough if you want to go home? Ricky, that's a great question, and I can't remember if you're the one that asked me, but I am going to address the microns right now because I had someone ask me that question. So I'm trying to find it so I can mark it off. Let me see where it is here. I want to try to mark these questions off that I've actually answered, so that way I don't forget. Yeah, here it is right here. So the question that was asked to me in my chat or on an email, I can't remember what, was on a self-contained ice machine, how low of a vacuum do I pull and what is an acceptable decay rate? Okay, so, and that kind of goes for your question too, Ricky. How low is low enough? All right, so we know that in our industry we have a rule of thumb that we should see 500 microns, right? If our vacuum pump needs to get down to 500 microns, maintain 500 microns, and then we shut it off and we do a decay test. The decay test is how fast the pressures are going to rise within the system. The micron level is going to go up. Understand something. I'm not a genius, or I don't know everything when it comes to evacuations, but there's a couple things I do know. Number one, every system leaks, okay? There's not a system out there that doesn't have a leak. We just have very low leak rates, okay, on some systems. So the decay test is when your microns are going up after you've shut off the vacuum pump. Now, there's a certain method, okay? You have to make sure that you isolate it. In a perfect world, you don't want to pull an evacuation through a manifold set. You want to pull and use an independent micron gauge. That way the manifold set doesn't have potential leaks and different things like that. But that's a whole nother argument to be made, okay? So how low is low enough? For the most part, the rule of thumb is on air conditioning systems, you want your evacuation to go below 500 microns, or right at 500 microns at minimum, okay? And you want a decay test. And when you do the decay test, typically you don't want the pressures to rise above 1,000 microns. My rule of thumb is within 10 minutes, okay? Now, eventually it should slow down on the rising, but when you turn a vacuum pump off right away, it's going to rise pretty quick. But, you know, my rule of thumb is that basically on an air conditioning system, I want to get it to 500 microns and I want to do my decay test and I want it to hold under 1,000 microns for 10 minutes at least, okay? So that would be my test on that. Now, when you get into refrigeration, you're actually supposed to go lower, especially when you get into low temp refrigeration. So 200 to 300 microns with a decay test, typically around 500 to 750 is my rule of thumb. For about 10 minutes too. If you can keep it under that 500 to 750 range for about 10 minutes when the vacuum pump shut off, for the most part, I'm pretty comfortable with that. Okay. Now, I am more of a practical person, and I realize that a lot of times it doesn't get that low. So your question is 700 to 900 microns close enough if you want to go home? I mean, sure. You know, have I done systems where I pulled it to just 1,000 microns before and let it go? Yeah, I have. Okay. Have I done systems where I couldn't get it below 500 or below 1,000 microns? Yeah, I have, and I've let them run. So it really depends on your judgment call when you're in the field, and basically, you know, what's acceptable. Do you understand what happens if you don't pull a proper evacuation? There's also the question of what is what is happening in your system when the decay test is rising really high, when the microns are rising really high. Do you actually have a leak, or do you have moisture in the system? Or non-condensables in the system? Who knows, okay? So understanding the things that can happen. If you don't pull a proper evacuation and there's moisture left in the system or non-condensables left in the system, then you're potentially going to have some issues when the system's running, okay? But you can't always be perfect, especially those supermarket guys know this much better than I, but even I, when I'm doing a beer walk-in, you know, and it's been down all day and I have to start the system up, I mean, sometimes you can't pull the perfect evacuation. You just got to get it up and running because they need to sell their beer and they're losing money. There's an acceptable, you know, hey, perfection isn't achievable in certain situations. So the answer to your question is it really depends on your judgment call, and you have to make that out in the field and know, hey, is this good enough? But you also have to know when you're just cutting corners and you're just trying to go home faster. There's nothing worse than someone cutting corners. And here comes the Coke nose, guys. All right. All right, let's move on to the next question. I'm going to get to my list of things. Have I ever had anything actually blow up while I was working? Yeah, I have actually. I don't know that I've quite got it on camera though. No, I don't. I try to capture it, especially now. You know, in the very beginning of doing my videos, I tried to edit really hard, and I realized that I started getting these comments from people saying, "Oh my gosh, you're perfect." I'm not perfect, guys. I screw stuff up all the time. So, you know, I try to make a point to show my mistakes even more so than I ever have now, to try to let people know that I'm just a normal guy. I'm not anything special. I just basically have turned on a camera and started recording myself. I know there's many other techs out there much better than I that just haven't gotten the exposure or the ability to turn on a camera and start recording. Okay. I want to address this right now too. We got quite a few people in here right now. Do me a favor, hit the like button. It really does help the channel. Okay. So please smash that like button, guys, because my screen says we got 442 people in here and 165 likes. So please step out. Even if you got to back out of the chat for a second, hit that thumbs up button. Even if you're on mobile, you can do it and help the stream out. Okay. It really does help. So last week's live stream, there was something that was brought up. I believe it was Joe Shearer that brought up, was a commenter. Joe Shearer has a YouTube channel too. I've communicated with him. I actually met him at AHR show. Joe Shearer brought up something because he said I said something incorrectly. And we actually addressed it on the HVAC Overtime channel over the weekend on Friday. He was absolutely correct. I was incorrect in something that I said on my video. So last week, someone had asked me a question about why I have single phase or two pole contactors on three phase systems. And I had said for two reasons. I said, number one, to save money, but number two, because they use it as a crankcase heater. Now, I was incorrect about the crankcase heater. So guys, I'm telling you guys, I'm not perfect on everything, okay? I've heard that so many years in my career, and even Joe, and there was, who else was it? It was someone else that was it Total Tech? Another tech and Joe were kind of going back and forth. I can't remember. I'm sorry if I'm butchering whoever else it was that was telling me. But I was incorrect in saying that it was using it as a crankcase heater. Now, there is a certain instance, and I wish I had a schematic I could pull up in front of you guys, where on a residential system, they will use, you have 208 volts or 240 volts single phase coming into the residential system. But if you notice on some of them, the contactor is only disconnecting one pole. Now, in some situations on some of those residential systems, my understanding is that can still act as a crankcase heater. And what it does is it uses a capacitor, runs back through. But on my three-phase systems, I made an assumption thinking that it was acting as a crankcase heater when they were using the two-pole contactor on the three-phase system. Because when they do a two-pole on a three-phase system, one leg is always going to the compressor, one leg is going to every three-phase device in that system, and it's always energized, and then there's nothing else going through. But I was incorrect, guys, okay? So I do not know everything. I make mistakes all the time. And I was looking at a schematic because they brought it to my attention. Actually, it was brought up in the overtime thing, and then I got like totally distracted and started looking at schematics for carrier package units. And as I was looking at the schematic, I'm like, this absolutely does not work as a crankcase heater. So the carriers ones that I'm working on, basically, the two-pole contactors are simply just there to save money. They're not there to act as a crankcase heater. Now, in some situations, there is a configuration where that might work, especially on the residential ones, but it does not apply to the three-phase units, okay? What is my, let me see, crankcase heater keeps the liquid refrigerant. Oh, okay, so let me see what I'm missing in here. What am I missing? In a pinch, have I ever had to pull a vacuum with my mouth? Just asking, thanks. No, Ghostface, I've never had to pull a vacuum with my mouth. Let me see what else. I'm still learning new things in the field. Yeah, definitely. I'm still learning new stuff all the time. Technology's changing every single day, so all new stuff coming in. What am I missing in here? In a pinch. No, I already answered that one. Let me get down here. What do crankcase heaters do? So crankcase heaters are simply there to keep the liquid refrigerant from migrating basically into the compressor. On startup, if we have a lot of liquid refrigerant in the compressor, we can actually wash the oil out of the compressor. So the crankcase heater is there to keep the oil in the compressor warm, so that way there's not a big pressure differential and the liquid refrigerant doesn't migrate to the compressor. What is my process for finding difficult leaks that's taking longer than normal, Mr. Green? So first off, you start with the basic steps. You look at the evaporator, look at the expansion valve, look at the condenser return bends, look for any visual signs of oil. The next thing that I'm going to do is maybe bump the system pressures up. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. If you're working on a heat pump, you can actually run it in heating mode. So that way the evaporator or the indoor coil builds up pressure, then turn the system off when you get it nice and hot and do a leak check on the evaporator. A lot of times on our equipment, the leaks are in the evaporators, okay? Because the evaporators are typically exposed to the indoor air that usually has contaminants, different things like that. In a residential home, you've got all kinds of different cleaners and different things and chemicals that are in the air, you know, contaminating the coil, causing corrosive stuff and eating it away. So if you have a heat pump, turn the system on in heating, build up the pressure in the system. Oftentimes, as you get the pressures higher, it's easier to find refrigerant leaks. If you can't do it that way, you can do the same thing like on a condenser. You can build the pressure up. If you're working on a refrigeration system and you've got a low temp downstairs, evaporators, and then you have, you know, the condenser up on the roof, it can be a little difficult to build up the pressure in the evaporator. What you can simply do is turn off the compressor and equalize your gauges out. So you basically take the high side pressure, dump it into the low side with the compressor off, leave them open, build up the pressure, do your leak check that way. If none of that works, then you have to go last case scenario, evacuate or remove the refrigerant from the system, leave about, I don't know, half a pound in there as a trace gas and bump that system up with nitrogen, making sure that you don't go higher than the test pressures. I've shown that in videos how I've screwed up pressure transducers because I applied too much pressure doing a leak check. So pay attention, especially when you're doing electronic expansion valves and pressure transducers. You don't want to over pressurize the evaporator, but it also applies on normal evaporators too. But you don't want to over pressurize anything. You can bump it up with nitrogen, leaving about a half a pound in there. It is perfectly legal for us to take refrigerant and use it as a trace gas. If you can, grab some 404A. That's a great refrigerant that has a really good with some leak detectors, it might be kind of hard to find 410A. If you have some 404A in your van, just put a tad bit of 404A in there, half a pound, bump it up with nitrogen, and you'll probably find your leak right quick. So that would be my methods for doing leak checks. And then once I find a leak, then I'm going to pinpoint it with big blue soap bubbles. I'm usually going to spray it on the spot where the leak detector is going crazy and then actually pinpoint the leak. A really important leak finding tip that I can give all of you guys, okay? Don't just stop at the first leak. Just because you find one leak doesn't mean that it's everything. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you find the leak and it's only on a Schrader, 90% of the time, that's not the leak. Okay, that's my personal experience. Schraders, yes, Schraders always leak. But when you have a system that's extremely low on gas, if it's leaking at the Schrader and that's the only leak point, there's going to be oil all over that Schrader, okay? So don't just say, hey, you know what, the Schraders are leaking, problem solved. Most of the time, that's not going to be the case, okay? When someone calls me and says, yeah, I found the leak on the Schrader, I say, no, you need to go look a little bit more, okay? Schraders do leak, but unless there's oil all over that Schrader for the most part and it's really low, you need to keep looking for that leak, okay? All right. Crutch word drinking game, Robert Clark. That's a really good thing. All right. What is the closest I've ever come to dying on the job? Unreasonable Steve. I don't know about dying, but I fell off a ladder about 6 years ago while I was holding my oxyacetylene torch. When I was climbing up the ladder, I was one-handing it, you know, just reaching up and grabbing, and I missed the top rung and I fell off of the ladder. And as I was falling, I dropped my oxyacetylene torch. Myself and the oxyacetylene torch caddy landed on a giant chain link fence that was going over the whole back dock of the restaurant, and I was okay. I would have to say that was probably the closest that I came to seriously hurting myself for sure. Let me see what else. Slayer Nader, thank you very much for the support in purchasing the hat, bud. I really, really appreciate it. For those that are just in here right now, I'm going to say it again. Merch is available on hvacrvideos.com. I have shirts, hats. For those that don't know, this is the shirt right here. It has my snowflake logo. And then on the back of the shirt, it says HVACR Videos, Big Picture Diagnoses. I also have hats available. Let me see if I can find a hat. I think they're over here. The shirts, I have them in white, black, and then this gray color. So this is the hat right here. Now, the hat is a flex fit, breathable material. You can look at it. It's actually a different kind of a texture on the hat. I purposely use this because it's an outdoor hat and it's meant to breathe. I can actually see light through the top of the hat, but it's not a trucker hat, you know, in the way that it's not, you know, the mesh or whatever, but it is a different style hat. Now, this hat right here, I'm going to get more of these in this week. So if you go to my website, I'm out of the large, extra large. They should be in stock Wednesday or Thursday. This is a small medium. I still have plenty of small mediums. Notice though, there's no logo. There's no HVACR videos icon. It doesn't say HVACR videos. I purposely did that because my thought was, even when I go to work, I don't want to advertise HVACR videos because my company name is not HVACR videos, okay? I wanted you guys to be able to wear these hats at work and not advertise my brand, so that way you can still wear them and just wear them as a normal hat. So that's why they just say HVACR. The only, you know, little thing I did was I put my color scheme in there. So the light blue, the red, and the dark blue. That's my color scheme that's on my logo. So yeah, these are the hats. One thing that I really tried to make sure with these hats was you look at the under and it's black. I purposely did that because there's nothing worse than your hats getting worn out from your fingers wearing them at work. So that's the hats. All right, let me see what else. What am I missing in here right now? Low ambient kits, modifications. What's my favorite for HVACR? Ever install a headmaster control? So tomorrow's YouTube. Yes, I have done head pressure control valves all day long. I have a bunch of them back here. I got an OROA valve right here. I've got a standard head pressure control valve right here, and then I actually made a cutaway of a head pressure control valve. This is an LAC valve. Shown this many a times, and I usually do a lot of talking about these in the winter time when we start having low ambient issues. My favorite head pressure or low ambient kit is a head pressure control valve, okay, because it's a lot smoother. It doesn't, it's not violent on the system, basically, okay? So I prefer a head pressure control valve. I realize that a lot of people don't like them. A lot of people like fan cycling. Fan cycling is cool, in my opinion, as long as you have multiple condenser fan motors. But if you have one single fan motor, what you'll notice on a refrigeration system that has a receiver with a fan cycling control is that the sight glass will violently flash when the fan cycle control turns off the fan and when the fan cycle control turns on the fan. For that brief time, there's a lot of flashing going on, and I don't care for that. I prefer a head pressure control valve because it's nice and smooth versus the violence that fan cycle control will do. Brent Hall, what's my favorite tool bag? Just ordered the Vito Pack XLT. So I use the Vito Tech Pack, the big backpack. That's what I've used for many years. I have a bunch of other Vito bags. I actually have an XLT in my garage that I haven't been using for a while, but I love that bag. I like the Vito bags, though. They're my favorite for sure. Let me see what else. It's not. Yeah, definitely. All right. Have I ever used Diversitech Triple D cleaner? No, I have not. But I will say that Diversitech Triple D is actually the only cleaner that is approved for Linux condensers, the microchannel or the Environ coils. Linux actually has a series of YouTube videos out there where they actually show their service techs cleaning Environ coils. And at the time, this was a couple years ago, Triple D was actually the only cleaner that they approved for those. Now, I personally use Refrigeration Technologies condenser coil cleaners, the Viper Venom, or then the Venom Pack. Those are microchannel safe. I love them. No issues with them. That's all I personally use. Okay, I'm going to get to the what is my opinion on brazing with soft solder. I don't do it, Dale, the HVAC repair guy. I personally, whenever I'm brazing, I use 15% Silphos brazing rods, or I use 56% silver, okay, for dissimilar metals. I don't use any of the Stay-Brite 8 or anything like that. I don't care for them. They're a headache to me. On the refrigeration side, I've fixed way too many leaks on expansion valves with load melting solders that people have used, and it's just a headache. One thing that I don't like about the low temp solders on an expansion valve is oftentimes they'll use a low temp solder, Stay-Brite 8 or something like that, to braze the expansion valve to the brass distributor. And then when you go to repair it, you try to use 56% silver and it won't mix correctly with the Stay Bright 8, and it's just a pain in the butt. So I prefer not to use any of those. I'm going to get to my list of things that I'm supposed to talk about here. I answered that one. Let me see. I answered that one. I do want to point out this week, or actually not this week, but on the 20th, okay, of August, Sporlan is going to be doing another one of their webinars. Sporlan does a series of webinars that they've been doing for a while. It's a continuation of their supermarket training that they used to do many, many years ago. But the two guys that do the training together, they're really cool dudes, and they have a great dynamic in the way that they talk to each other, and it's a very entertaining webinar. So it is their supermarket series webinar, but I'm telling you guys need to go check it out, because these videos, even if you're a residential tech, they have so much valuable information. I'm sorry, these webinars have so much valuable information in them, okay? So Sporlan's going to be doing it on the 20th, 1 p.m. Central Time. The topic of this one is going to be methods of temperature control. So it's a continuation of a series they've been doing for temperature control, but this time they're going to be talking about evaporator pressure regulators, which are very interesting. I don't work with evaporator pressure regulators. I understand the concept, but they basically maintain evaporator temp in the system. It's really interesting. So you guys definitely want to check that out. I'm going to post a link in the chat right now. I believe my moderator bot has been posting it already, but I'm going to post it. Here you go. Go register for this webinar and check it out, guys. It's free on the Sporlan, you know, it's a Zoom meeting or something like that. So, but I usually follow them, and I'm usually in there too when they're going on. They're really cool. You can usually just listen to them when you're working too. All right. Do I ever do hot side? No, Thomas. I'm sorry. I don't do hot side. I stay super busy with the refrigeration. Well, busy enough. And it's just one of those things. I never really wanted to get too much further into things, because to get into the hot side, I have to have techs that work on the hot side, and I have to be well versed in the hot side. I basically like to work on the stuff that I'm able to troubleshoot over the phone with my service techs, and I'm not comfortable working on the hot side stuff. I understand most of it's electrical, and I could probably figure it out, but it's just another headache that I have to worry about right now, so just never really got into it. What do I think about Goodman package units? Drake, I've worked on maybe 2 Goodman package units probably about 6 to 7 years ago. I wasn't a fan of them then. I don't know if they've gotten any better. But, you know, I really don't have anything bad to say. I just, you know, you get what you pay for, basically. All right. Update on the AHR Expo. Have I gotten the hotel COVID? No. I haven't booked anything, Ernesto, for the AHR Expo. I'm very hesitant to book anything, especially if it's non-refundable, because honestly, I don't think the AHR Expo is going to go on. Almost every expo has been canceled, and personally, I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, I still might go, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about going with that many people. So last year, sorry, my face is itching. Last year, I went to the AHR Expo. It was a really, really cool show. It was awesome, but there was just under 10,000 people there between 3 days. When I got back from the AHR Expo, I was sick for 3 weeks with a cold. Whether or not it was COVID, I don't know. I didn't have stomach aches. I didn't have, you know, soreness or anything like that, but it was just a cold that lasted for 3 weeks. Several other people that I was with also got sick after the AHR Expo, so I don't know if I'm going to go or not. I don't know. I honestly don't think it's going to go on, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be some kind of a virtual thing. All right, let me see what else I got in here. When I'm doing these big calls where I end up spending an entire day there, you know, and I go out there and the customer calls about a water leak, and then I find that every AC's got plugged up drains, every AC has bad belts. I end up spending the whole day fixing all kinds of stuff. How do I bill out for my time at the end of the day? This was a great question. The person that sent it to me basically said, it seems like it's a pain in the butt to sit at the end of the day and figure out your invoicing, figure out how much time you spent on each piece of equipment. And it is, okay? When you're doing that kind of stuff, it sucks. At my company, the service techs, for the most part, are only responsible for putting their time on the invoice and putting a brief description. For the most part, in the office, we handle the billing and different things like that. We ask them to put line items, like if they use 3 dryers, we ask them to put that on there. But yes, the paperwork of our industry does suck. That is the part that does suck for sure. Paperwork can be a headache. It's best if you can to really start putting in your times as you go throughout the day. So if you have to do multiple different invoices, because we do that a lot, if we're working on a different piece of equipment, it's a different invoice. I know it's hard, but you need to make a habit of stopping when you're done with one piece of equipment, filling out the invoice and going to get a customer's signature, then starting a new invoice on the new piece of equipment. Because at the end of the day, after you've been there for 7 hours, you're hot, it's 100 degrees outside, you're exhausted. The last thing you want to do is spend an hour and 15 minutes filling out invoices, trying to remember, what did I do? What did I do? And you're exhausted at the end of the day. Same thing of why our vans are always a mess, right? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to spend time cleaning. We just want to get home. So if you can, try to fill out your invoice as much as possible as you go throughout the day. I know it seems like a pain, but at the end of the day, you're going to be so much happier when you just got to get one more invoice signed instead of figuring out all this crap, okay? All right, let's see what else. Are installing liquid line solenoids in HVAC units overkill or just a good idea? Well, in HVAC units, they will help with, again, liquid migration and things like that. So no, they're not overkill, but I mean, you know, you got to follow manufacturer's instructions. So if a manufacturer tells you, you know, on a split system over this many feet of a line set, you need to install a liquid line solenoid valve, then I highly suggest you do it, for sure. So yeah, basically I just got a text message from my local power company right now. I just looked down at my phone and it said, flex alert. Get ready for the power to go out, basically. It's saying conserve electricity, power outages are coming. So, interesting. Haven't gotten it yet, but, and let's see right now. Hold on just a second. I'll tell you thank you very much right now. So I'm going to look at my phone because I saw that something just came in on my phone. Hold on one sec. And it looks like, Jesse Moore, thank you very much for ordering a shirt. I don't know if you're watching right now, but an order actually just came in right now. So if you're watching, thank you very much, Jesse. I really, really appreciate the support. Okay. So, wow, I got a lot of text messages here. Who else is texting me? What am I missing? It looks like it's all junk. Yeah, no, not important text messages. Let me go down to this one right here. Let me see what else we got in here. All right. As I'm going through my list of things to talk about, okay, this one is a really important one, and this is perfect. Do me a favor, guys. Go hit the like button. We got 455 people watching, and we got 304 likes. So smash the like button. It really does help out the stream. So I've been very, very open about mental illness, about depression, that kind of stuff, because I've dealt with it, anxiety and different things, okay? I'm not going to say the guy's name. I'm going to say Anonymous, okay? Anonymous sent me an email, and he asked me a question, and it was a great question. He asked me, when I'm on call, do I struggle with anxiety? And he says he has bad anxiety and his on-call week seems to make it even worse. Yes, definitely. Okay. How do I deal with anxiety? Everybody deals with it differently. I suggest that if you guys have issues with depression, anxiety, and different things like that, talk to someone for sure. Okay. Talk to a doctor, talk to a family member. Don't dwell on that stuff. Don't keep it in your head. Don't not share it. Okay. Don't be afraid or embarrassed to talk about that kind of crap. It's really important to get it out, okay? So when it comes to being on call, how does the anxiety affect me? So when I'm on call, yeah, it stresses me out, okay? But I'm lucky in the fact that my wife is a very understanding person. My wife and I have been dating since high school. She's known HVAC her entire adult life, okay? Because she grew up with me working HVAC, right? We got married really young, 21 years old. We've been together ever since. I'm 37, she's 36. That's all she knows, okay? So she's very supportive when it comes to the HVAC life. How does it help me? I mean, how does it hurt me though? So when I'm on call, I'm very anxious, right? And I know this sucks, but the way that I deal with it is when I'm on call, I absolutely do not plan a single thing. When friends call me and they say, hey, we want you to come over and have a party at our house. No, right? I might show up, but I'm not planning anything because my luck, and again, I know this sucks, guys. This really does suck. But the way that it works for me is whenever I plan things or whenever I decide to drive an hour and a half away from my house to go to someone else's house for a barbecue, I get a service call. So when I'm on call, I stay home. I don't drink when I'm on call. I might have one beer or something, but I mean, I don't drink. I don't plan on anything because it just works that way that when I do plan, it happens. I get the calls. It sucks, okay? One thing that does help me with the on-call schedule is I put my entire year in my phone. And all of our company, for my company, I do it for everybody. We know for the entire year when our on-call is going to be. So at my company, you're never on call for more than 3 days at a time. So, everybody knows all the way ahead, so that way they can plan accordingly. Okay. I don't have a magic explanation for how I deal with it, but I do suffer with the anxiety about it. It really does suck. And it, even to this day, being, 16 years in the trade, 17 years, whatever it is, it still sucks too, because, every once in a while my wife says, hey, we want to go here on the weekend. And I think, oh no, okay, I'll go, but then I'm so anxious when I go. I'm just waiting for that service call, and, it just usually bites me in the butt for the most part. He had a second part of his question, and this is a really good point. He says, does my anxiety make me a more thorough service technician? And what he was saying was, basically, he's so anxious about not having a callback that he double checks and triple checks everything. And yes, I do the exact same thing. I get so anxious about things. I'll literally be walking down to my van after I've already double checked that all the equipment's on the roof, has been turned back on, and I'll literally put my tools away and go back inside the restaurant and check again, because if I've just learned to trust myself. If I second guess myself, you better go back and double check again, because just do it. It's going to eat you alive if you don't walk back in there. So as I'm walking out to my van after I've already double checked it and I think, wait, did I? Oh shoot, did I check that last unit? Just go and do it, because the whole way home you're going to be dwelling on it. It's going to be hitting in your stomach, twisting it up, and it's a headache. All right, let me see what I'm missing in here in this chat. Suction line filter dryer opinions. Ike is asking me if I hooked my network modem and router into my UPS. No, not yet, because I actually maxed out the space on my UPS. I realized that I can plug in a power strip, but no, I am thinking about doing that, but my router actually sits way back here and my UPS actually sits way up here. So no, not at this time, but it is something that I will eventually do for sure. Suction line filter dryers. I don't know what you mean by that, Chad M, but I'm going to go ahead and just talk about suction line filter dryers. So there is a difference. They actually do make a suction line filter, and they actually do make a suction line filter dryer. Okay, a filter dryer actually removes moisture from the system. A suction line filter is what it sounds like. It's literally just a strainer that cleans the refrigerant. Okay, understand the difference between the two. Oftentimes on the residential side and the commercial side, you don't see suction line filters, but on Manitowoc ice machines, you see suction line filters all the time. So keep that in mind. Suction line filter dryers. What about leaving them in the system? That's a question that I get from a lot of people. Should you leave a suction line dryer in the system, or should you always go and remove it? No, you don't necessarily always have to remove it. Now, if you have acid buildup in the system or something like that, and it's there for a purpose, of course, you want to go back, but you don't necessarily have to remove it. You just want to test it. When your suction line filter dryer has a pressure drop, for the most part, if it's anything more than 3 PSI, you typically want to start considering changing your suction line filter dryer, because it's starting to get restricted. Okay, that's a rule of thumb. Don't quote me on that. Always lean on the manufacturer. But yeah, anything more than 3 PSI, you got some issues there. But if you don't have a pressure drop, a huge pressure drop across your suction line filter dryer, personally, I just leave them in the system. There's been many videos that I've made where I've shown myself going back and taking out and changing the suction dryer, putting another one in, but then I typically go back and check it again. And if it doesn't have a pressure drop, I just leave it in the system. It really depends. I have personally no problem leaving them in the system, but you always want to lean on the manufacturer. Maybe they have issues with leaving them in there. Personal experience is suction line filter dryers on train package units plug up really quick, and oftentimes you can't find a big enough dryer. When sizing suction line filter dryers, you do not just look at the line size, okay? For instance, on a Sporlan suction filter dryer, on the side of the box, it actually tells you the capacity of the dryer, what type of a system it was designed for, and what the horsepower or the tonnage of the system should be versus what size the dryer is, okay? So you don't just size a suction line filter dryer for the suction line size. It's not unheard of to see an 1 3/8 suction line filter dryer on something that has a 7/8 inch liquid line or an 1 1/8 line, because maybe you couldn't find one big enough, right? And 7/8 or 1 1/8, and the 1 3/8 was the only one you can find a 30 cubic inch for the day, okay, or something like that. So it's not the end of the world if you've got a bigger line size. You want to size them for the capacity and the contaminant removal for sure. You don't want to undersize a filter dryer because you don't want it to become a huge restriction in the system for sure. Best case scenario is if you're working on anything commercial, for the most part, you should have at least a 30 cubic inch suction line dryer. I'm not a fan of the pancake dryers, and for those of you guys that know what I'm talking about, you know the issue. Pancake dryers are super tiny. They don't have much filtering ability. I'm just not a fan of pancake dryers. I prefer a standard 30 cubic inch or bigger suction line filter dryer for sure. All right, let's see what else. What am I missing here? Do I work on geothermal? No. In Southern California, geothermal isn't a big deal. Ray says 5 pounds difference or higher. That's okay. So everybody has a different opinion on the pressure drop across a suction line filter dryer. And that's a great point that Ray is saying. Okay. So you always want to do the reading for yourself. Don't just trust some idiot on YouTube because he's running his mouth on a live stream that you're watching. Okay. Do the research yourself and make sure that you test, you know, and find out what manufacturers recommend and how that system's designed. Sporlin says you can use a liquid line filter dryer and a suction line filter dryer interchangeably if in a pinch. That makes sense, Pro C. Now the difference, my opinion, typically between a liquid line filter dryer and a suction line filter dryer, yes, the desiccant inside, but typically the suction line filter dryers, you're not going to find them for the most part in 1/4 inch, 3/8. You can, but it's very rare. So for the most part, the suction line filter dryers sitting on the shelf are going to have bigger line sizes and bigger capacities than liquid line dryers. But they are interchangeable. I mean, Sporlin does make small suction line filter dryers, but just the supply houses typically don't stock them. So in my area. What about a temperature difference on the filter dryer? Is it just the PSI? It's a temperature difference too. You can do a temp difference across it. What are my thoughts on converting a walk-in freezer from a recip to a scroll, cost related? LM Sylvia. So I haven't had very good experience going from reciprocating to scrolls, in my opinion. And I've only had it, I've only done it on air conditioning, not on a walk-in freezer. But the air conditioning issues that I had, I'm going to tell you the perfect example. We went on an older Carrier package unit, air conditioner, that had a a hermetically sealed compressor in it. And we went to a scroll. And what we actually found was we would constantly trip the high pressure control. Now, I'm not a scientist. I don't know everything about this, but in my opinion, the flow rate of the system isn't high enough basically for the startup of that compressor. So what I mean is in my system with the scroll compressor, when you would start it up, it would trip the high pressure control. But once it started up, it would never trip it again. It was always the startup. So basically, it was the flow basically. The compressor was starting up and it couldn't, if that makes sense, the system basically wasn't allowing the refrigerant pressures to equalize within itself, I guess is the way to say it. So I haven't had a good experience. I've never done it on a refrigeration system, but I would just make sure that the system is designed for that compressor, and that you're not going to have head pressure issues like I've had. All right, let's see what else. What are my new industry trends that I hate? I'm not a fan of all... it's funny, I'm like an old school guy, so all the circuit boards and stuff, not my favorite. They tend to be more of a headache. It's really easy to troubleshoot things mechanical, and it's really easy to troubleshoot things that you can not have to understand what's happening in the logic of a circuit board. There's no getting away from that, but that's an industry standard or an industry trend that's just, skyrocketing right now, is all the electronics in refrigeration systems. Let me see what else. Is the red snowflake on a Dixel controller an alarm indicator? The red snowflake... I think that's a good question. So the red snowflake, no, I don't think that's an alarm. I think that's a heating. So on a Dixel controller, you can often set them up for cooling and heating. Now, I could be talking out of my ass right now, but if you set it up for heating, instead of a green snowflake, it's going to have a red snowflake. And that just means that it's heating. The contacts are closed and it's running. The blue or the green snowflake is going to be refrigeration typically. That's again, off the top of my head, what a red snowflake would mean on a Dixel. Let's see what else. You're curious, can ask to post your years in the field in the chat. 17 years here. Yeah, go ahead. I'm about 16, 17 years myself, Andy. Have I ever worked on LG compressors? Yeah, on a lot of the Linux package units are using the LG scrolls. All right. All right, I'm going to get to, what is this question? What is the allowable pressure drop when pressure testing a new install? I don't know. It depends on what you're working on, bud. I don't know what you mean by that one. You don't like all the new refrigerants, but need less harmful refrigerants to, yeah, with the cancers and different things. Yeah, the new refrigerants is a trip. One time you were on a roof and the AC vent was open and you're starting in there and you're like, crap, you forgot your vacuum machine, so you suck it down manually. Have I been in the You suck it down manually? How do you Ghostface, you can't pull a system down with your mouth. That's not going to do anything. I don't think it's defrost. I think defrost is a different indicator. Defrost is usually little droplets of water, I thought. I could be wrong, though. All right. Let me get to my list of things to talk about here. I already answered that one. I already answered that one. I already answered that one. Oh, great question. So can a refractometer, the refractometers that I use, okay, and this was a conversation I was having with my friends before the stream. So someone had asked me a question if I can use my refractometer to test methanol glycol, okay? And I was like, methanol? I think he meant ethanol. But no, I was doing some research, and they actually do use methanol glycol, so that's new to me. I guess they use it for geothermal systems. So no, my refractometer only has the scale for ethanol and propylene glycol. It does not have a scale for methanol glycol. So no, you cannot on that one. But that was an interesting thing. I never knew, because when he was saying methanol, I'm like, you don't use methanol. But no, I was doing some research, and they do make a methanol-based glycol. Very interesting. They use for geothermals. Very cool. HVACR Wiz, thank you very much for that super chat, man. I've never worked on the Invotech compressors, LM Sylvia. I don't know that I've worked on those. You don't know if I ever tried it, but depending on how strong you are, it could work. Just saying, no, Ghostface, it couldn't work, actually. I don't mean to call you out, but no, an evacuation is not just to pull it down to zero. An evacuation is to pull moisture out of the system. So you're not going to pull moisture out by pulling an evacuation with your mouth on the hose. That's not going to do anything. You're better off just sweeping the system with refrigerant if you were going to go that step, which I don't advocate. I'm not going to lie and say I never did that early in my career, but you're not going to pull a system down with your mouth. I mean, you're not doing anything. You might as well not even do anything if you're doing that. And again, I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying, you know, the whole point of an evacuation is to pull moisture out of the system and potential non-condensables. There's so much between 0 and 500 microns that you humanly is not possible to use your body to pull that out with the system. You need strong pumps with big hoses to pull that out. All right. Let me see. Methanol is a solvent. Yeah. Okay. So, you really strong with this trial. Yeah. Okay. Let me see what else we got in here. On my thing, I already answered this one. I already answered that one right there. Oh, grammatical errors, guys. Okay. So about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I made an error when I was filling out the title of a video, and my goodness gracious, the chat lit up telling me things about I spelt this wrong. I put an apostrophe in the wrong place. It was actually, that's what I did. I put an apostrophe when you shouldn't have. And that was a mistake. Now, I thought it would be funny on the next video if I trolled and misspelt the word to, okay? So I did that, and my gosh, the chat blew up. Guys, it made me laugh. I enjoy it, actually. It just kind of made me laugh because so many people get triggered by my misspellings on my titles. I just had to address that. That's the funniest thing ever. When you're troubleshooting things, actually, I'm going to address this one right now. Why do I wear these stupid headphones? I get this question about once or twice a week. So I use these giant headphones, and no, technically I don't have to use these headphones. But when you're doing videos, when you're recording things, when you're live streaming, crap happens all the time. Audio gets messed up. Connections go bad. These are monitor headphones, okay? They are monitoring. I can hear myself talking into the mic, and I can hear what you guys are hearing right now. If I had a loose mic cable or something like that, I could be talking away and I wouldn't hear anything. So the reason why you see people doing live streams and different things like that wearing headphones is simply just so they can monitor their audio. Now, also, if I'm doing a live stream with other people, then we're talking back and forth. It's coming through in the headphones. If I use the speakers in the computer, what you would do, depending on your mic, it actually doesn't happen that bad with this mic, but you'll get audio feedback. You'll start hearing echoes and different things like that. Now, with this mic, it actually does a really good job of not creating a feedback issue, but still, I wear these. Now, I've tried, actually, this week, I bought some monitor earpieces, basically, that are meant for monitoring audio for, like, musicians and things like that are, like, hidden, that hide in your ears, and they suck on the audio quality. These Audio Technicas These are the Audio-Technica ATH M40X headphones. Super nice headphones. A great audio quality. They don't hurt your ears. They're great. So it's funny. I get that question all the time. Why do I wear these headphones? When you're troubleshooting up on the roof, you need to learn how to use your senses. So I use my senses all the time. For instance, right? In my click of death video, I heard when I walked up, I could hear the compressor turning on and off. Click, click. Okay. And then when I opened it up, I looked back at the start capacitor and I saw some white powdery-like substance coming out of the cap of the start capacitor. I visually had an idea that, and I even said, we got a bad start cap because I know the signs, okay? Using your senses are really important when you're troubleshooting. I can't stress this enough. Lose the headphones when you're working on a roof. Now, if you're in an equipment room, you're in a rack room, I understand you got to use hearing protection, okay? But when you can, get rid of the headphones. Your ears do so much troubleshooting for you, and your eyes do so much troubleshooting for you. When you're doing a preventative maintenance and you're just walking around, you can hear things across the roof. You can hear a compressor start up. You can hear a condenser fan motor starting slow because the capacitor is going bad. And you can hear it whining, wow, 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 as it's starting up. Your senses do so much troubleshooting for you if you just simply take off the headphones, turn the music off, and listen to what the equipment is telling you. It literally talks to you. When you're on the roof, the equipment talks to you. You're hearing something start up, and you hear, you know, a funny sound when the compressor starts up. When the compressor turns off and then it tries to turn on again 2 minutes later, you hear the click of death because it's having a hard time restarting because the differential isn't set right between, you know, on the temp control. Different things like that. So your senses do so much for you guys. So when you don't have to wear headphones for hearing protection, please take your headphones off and listen to the equipment. Let it talk to you. Let it tell you what's going on. It's going to make you a better service technician to use your senses when you're on the roof, okay? That's the whole stepping back and taking a look at the big picture thing. It's just so important. Let me see what else we missed in here. Have I worked on a very loud sounding package unit? John Deere fan. Yeah, I've worked on them all the time. Usually it can be a sign of a compressor going bad, different things like that. If a unit has a leak and the refrigerant is a blend while the refrigerant fractionate. So, Mr. Green, I have been told for the most part that fractionation is not really something you need to be so concerned about with a lot of our modern refrigerants. Now, you also have some new blends coming out that you need to do some research on. But for the most part, I have repaired refrigerant leaks on 410A, 404A, 448A, R22 is a pure glass, and some of the blends 408A, 409A in the past, and topped off the charge after fixing leaks, and personally have never had any problems. Whether or not the refrigerant fractionated a little bit, I guess there's always a possibility, but personally, I haven't had issues with fractionation. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I have heard a lot of people tell me that fractionization with a lot of refrigerants is kind of a myth, and we tend to overhype that one. Now, my buddy Ralph in here, I think I saw him in here earlier. I don't know if he's in here anymore. Ralph works for Honeywell Refrigerants. Ralph can probably talk to you a little bit more about fractionization with different refrigerants, and I'm going to put his email in the chat right now. You guys can feel free to send Ralph an email and talk to him about fractionization. Tell him I sent you over, and he's usually willing to help you guys out a lot. So, let me see. Dixel controllers use the XR60. Don't change colors. Solid snowflake is a compressor contactor on. Yeah, but he was saying a red snowflake. So on some of them, yeah, they will change to a red snowflake. I have seen that before. And I want to say the red snowflake on the XR60 is when it's set into heating mode, I think. I'm almost positive that's correct. Let's see what else. What am I missing here? Let me see. Right. Ralph is a cool dude. Ray has a good point. Ralph is an awesome guy, and he's always willing to answer your guys' questions. At what point is it not worth to continue working on a unit? Dogs, you got to really evaluate that one. It's really important to know when to stop, especially when you've been like way head over heels in a unit, spent a bunch of money, and then you find out the compressor is bad. It's like, oh my gosh, when do you stop? So you definitely got to keep the customer involved in the decision-making process as you're moving along. So for instance, you walk up to a package unit, you evaluate it, you find out that it's got blown fuses, and you got to go down to your van to get fuses. So as I'm going down to my van, I'm going to walk up to the customer and let them know, hey, you know what? Here's what I found. The unit has some blown fuses. Fuses don't just blow. There's usually something that causes it. I'm going to grab some. We're going to replace them, and then I'll let you know what I find. And as you're going through the system, you find a couple electrical shorts, and you find a bad condenser fan motor. Okay. So Depending on how big the system is, maybe you have to change the fan motor before you can troubleshoot anymore. So I'm going to go let the customer know again, hey, okay, so at this point, I found a bad fan motor. It's possible that caused the fuse to blow, but of course, we have to change the fan motor to make the system operate 100%, and then we'll evaluate it further. So I always keep the customer in the loop, right? It seems like you're bugging them, but you're keeping them in the loop and you're letting them know where you're at. So that way, when it all hits the fan in the end and you find out the compressor is bad, you can say, okay, we got to this point, we had to get the unit operational, and then we found a bad compressor. So here's what we got to do. When do you stop? That's a hard one. It really depends, you know. Keeping the customer in the loop and letting them know, okay, at this point, we're approximately $800 into it, okay? We're going to keep going, you know, just keeping them in the loop so that way they can be part of the decision-making factor. That's the most important advice I can probably give you on that one. And really, you got to know when to make judgment calls. I know that my customers, for the most part here in Southern California, with particular customers, they're not going to ever replace equipment. Other customers are going to replace it left and right. So every customer is different for me. If I'm at a certain restaurant, I know, hey, you know what? These guys are real proactive on replacing their equipment. I'm probably not going to go any further. I'm going to do a temporary repair, then send emails and get approval. Another customer of mine, I know they don't want to have to pay me to go back, and they're not going to change an air conditioner. So change the compressor. Well, you know, do what I have to do. I don't ever change compressors without asking, but I mean, there's so much I can do without asking, and then I can go to them and say, okay, we got to do this, and they usually say to go for it, but every customer is different. All right, high voltage, blows, caps, and electronics, definitely. Let me see what else we got in here. What am I missing? All right. You know what? A-Team Adam has the quote of the night. A-Team Adam says, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away and know when to run. Who sings that, guys? Don't answer that one, Adam. Come on, someone tell me who the artist that sang that song is. All right. JJ Services, thank you so very much for that one, bud. Really, really appreciate it. Let's see what else. Last question. Middle of the job, and the store owner keeps asking me if you can check the thermometer and replace it as well. You're like, okay, but first let me get this vac. Okay, all right. You're being silly with the vacuum. All right, Kenny Rogers, that's right. Rest in peace. Wasn't it just this last year that he passed away? I think it was. Definitely Kenny Rogers right there. All right. See, we got people. I appreciate music. So we were driving, guys, at this point in the stream right now, we're going to go ahead and stop with the HVAC talk, and we're just going to kind of relax and talk about other things, okay? It's time for that. So there's that. We were driving down the freeway the other day, and again, I have a very eclectic taste in music. So one day I'm listening to country music, one day I'm listening to whatever. And yacht rock has been my jam lately. That's like slow 70s relaxed music. Steely Dan. I don't know if Yes would be considered yacht rock. There's so much on there, but who else? Kenny Loggins is kind of yacht rock, but I listen to a lot of 70s classic rock. I listen to 80s music, a little bit of everything, but it's so funny because my wife and my kids do not like my music. My wife is usually sitting in the passenger seat just dying to change the radio station when I'm just rocking out to some kind of yacht rock classic or something like that. I don't know what it is, but it just kind of just relaxes me, and probably look like an idiot driving down the freeway, but I'm like nodding my head and relaxing and just listening, and my wife's like, you're an idiot. It's so funny. I enjoy it though too. I enjoy annoying the hell out of all of them. So what are good SoCal beers? So right now I'm drinking a Downtown Brown. This is by Lost Coast Brewing Company in Eureka, California. This is a brown ale. I'm a brown ale fan, so I really like browns. This one's good. Hangar 24 has, they're a brewery here in Redlands, California. They got a couple locations all over the place. They have a couple good beers too. But yeah, my brown ales are my favorite. There's also one from San Diego, a brown ale that I like, and it's called Pizza Port. I believe it's from San Diego. Pizza Port Brewing Company, and they have a chronic brown ale that they have, and that's a really good one too. My favorite beer, though, that I've been drinking is Rogue Hazelnut Brown. Rogue Hazelnut Brown's from Oregon. They're a microbrew, or a craft beer, I guess I should say. Super good. Really, really like that a lot. What podcast do I listen to? So as far as podcasts go, I listen to Zach's podcast, Shop Talk, and then also every once in a while, The Man with Issues. I try to listen to Brian's stuff as much as possible, the HVAC School podcast. Every once in a blue moon, I'll listen to Joe Rogan. I don't listen to him enough, I don't think, but I do like listening to Joe Rogan every once in a while. Armchair Experts with Dax Shepard is another cool podcast. That's a really good one. I listen to a lot of books on tape. Those are fun too. I'm trying to think what other podcasts I listen to. Well, I guess I can pull it up on my phone because I got a couple podcasts right here. I'm sure I can see here. What do we got? Who's calling right now? Watching my live stream right now. Steve M. Who is this? Wow, that's funny. Steve M, you didn't send the text message to the right person. Steve M's watching and he sent a text message to my dad. Thinking that was me. Wrong person. All right, so as far as podcasts go on my phone right now, there's a bunch that I probably don't even remember. I have Audible on my phone and I'll download books and listen to Audible books. HVACR Wiz, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That's awesome. Let me see here. Where's my podcast thing? Oh, Google Podcasts is the app that I use. And where are my podcasts at? Why am I not looking at them right now? Where's my Google Podcast app? There it is, podcasts. So in my phone right now, my podcasts are, where do I see them? Damn, I don't even know how to work this thing. Armchair Experts, HVACR School, the Granger Smith podcast. Granger Smith is a really popular Texas country singer. He has a YouTube channel called The Smiths, and he has his own podcast too. I like listening to him. Tool Pros podcast, HVAC Jerks, HVAC Shop Talk, HVAC Uncensored. Actually, if you guys haven't already, the Tool Wife, I think it's Tool Wife Confessions. So that's Brent Ridley from the Tool Pros, and it's his wife, and they do a podcast together. It's actually really fun to listen to. They have a cool dynamic when they talk about stuff, and it's actually a pretty cool podcast. So Tool Wife. The Way I Heard It, Mike Rose podcast. That's a great one. The Conan O'Brien podcast. Service Business Mastery with Tersh Blissett, HVAC Building Science, The Side Hustle Shows, another podcast. If you guys have other podcasts that you listen to that you think I'd be interested in, definitely send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So let me see what else we got in here. All right, let me see what I'm missing in here. How do I deal with driver complaints? I don't want to get too technical about HVAC stuff anymore, but driver complaints are something that happens. We just try to talk to the guys. You know, we have lettering on the side of our vehicles. It says our phone number. It says our vehicle number on the back. So when we get a bunch of complaints, we usually, sometimes people are just dummies and they call for no reason. But if I start to get a lot of complaints within a week, then I know I got to talk to one of the techs and be like, hey, you need to slow it down or something. So we can pull them up on GPS, like through our invoicing program, and kind of look and see like, hey, dude, you were doing 110 miles an hour in a freaking, you know, half-ton or three-quarter-ton van. You need to slow it down. So what genre of music that I won't admit to listen to? No, I listen to everything. I literally listen to everything. I listen to rap. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is classical music, but I listen to rap, rock. I'm not a huge fan of reggae, but I listen to everything, man. But I don't necessarily listen to a lot of the new rap. As far as rappers go right now, there's an artist called NF. NF. I listen to him. He's actually a Christian rapper of all things, but really like his music. Reminds me a lot of Eminem. He's kind of like Machine Gun Kelly, but he's like a clean version of Machine Gun Kelly. I guess that's probably not fair to call him the same as Machine Gun Kelly, but NF is a great person. Machine Gun Kelly's all right. Of course, old school Eminem for sure. Dre. Never a Tupac fan when it comes to rap and stuff. You know, but some of the old school stuff, Snoop Dogg, some of the old stuff, yeah, definitely. Love country music. My wife listens to that almost exclusively. My daughter listens to like the new rap, and I can't handle the new stuff. It's like the mumble rap and crap. I can't do that. That stuff drives me nuts. And I also listen to bluegrass. Yeah, I do. Punk. I grew up high school. NoFX got me through some really important times in high school for sure. So NoFX always has a place in my music genre. Linkin Park was huge in high school for me. Hybrid Theory had just come out like towards the end of high school, so I can remember my senior year listening to Hybrid Theory before anybody was even listening to Linkin Park. That was a huge album for me. So yeah, the Conan O'Brien Ray, that's a good one. So for sure. No, I haven't heard from Molly in a while, Adam. Yeah, I'm a little concerned. So, beer is bad for me, Charles Reed. Definitely. I have listened to Bill Burr's before. Yeah. Jim and Sam. I used to listen to Anthony Cumia's podcast from Opie and Anthony. I haven't listened to it in a long time. Ricky Skaggs. I like Boz Skaggs. Boz Skaggs has some cool music. All right. What's my opinion on the Dear Evan Hansen soundtrack and Hamilton soundtrack? I like those. I like musicals too. So Dear Evan Hansen is a musical. And then the Hamilton musical that they just came out with, I was listening to those a lot lately. Great music. I love musicals. I probably don't listen to enough, but Dear Evan Hansen, I listened to that one for a good 2 weeks after you told me about it, Connor, for sure. And my daughter was super stoked that I was listening to it too. HVACR Wiz, thank you very much. No, I don't listen to Burner out of Cali. I don't know who that is. I'll have to write it down for sure. Let's see what else. Chester Bennington for sure. I was so lucky to be able to see Bill at the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater in Irvine, California before they closed it. I got to see one of the most epic concerts. It was Linkin Park and 30 Seconds to Mars together. It was not Linkin Park headlining it. They were co-headlining the show. Great show. That was awesome. And then I also got the opportunity to see 30 Seconds to Mars at the Hollywood Bowl. My goodness. On a summer evening, if any of you guys ever get the opportunity to go see a concert at the Hollywood Bowl, what an epic experience. The acoustics of the Hollywood Bowl are so awesome. And then the summertime cool air as it's cooling down, that is such a great venue. But I saw Linkin Park and 30 Seconds to Mars. That was an awesome show. Awesome show. Let's see. Yeah, I don't listen to Taylor Swift very much anymore, Unreasonable Steve, but I have. The Taylor Swift when she was country, for sure. I went and saw a Taylor Swift concert with my daughter for like my two daughters. That was their Christmas present. I think my dad got them those tickets, I think. And my whole family, we went and saw Taylor Swift at their stadium tour. I don't know what the name of the tour was, but it was about 2 years ago. We saw them at the Rose Bowl. It's not my favorite, but I like Taylor Swift when she's saying country music for sure. Because that was like into high school, my early 20s was when Taylor Swift was coming out doing the country stuff, and I dug her country stuff a lot. Her new stuff, not as much, but I still appreciate it for sure. Limp Bizkit was big in high school for sure, and then Korn, Slipknot was big in high school. I was never really heavy into the hardcore metal, but I definitely listened to some Fred Durst. I definitely listened to some Korn for sure. So Sum 41, Bowling for Soup, Dashboard Confessional, lots of the alt-rock emo music for sure. So, yeah, definitely. Yellow Card, Verve Pipe, all of those. Blink-182 was huge for me in high school, too. Coming out of high school, I actually grew up in Riverside, and Travis Barker had a store when he started his brand. He launched his brand, Famous Stars and Straps. I got the opportunity to meet him one time. I was like a little deer in the headlights at his store. It was awesome, though, just to say hi to him. I don't even think I can't remember if I shook his hand or not, but really cool dude to meet. But yeah, I was really big into Blink-182. They got me through a lot in high school, too, for sure. For sure. REO Speedwagon, Taking It Back. Yeah, for sure. What was my best fishing catch? I've never really only fished for the most part for trout. I've never been a bass fisherman. I definitely want to learn to fish for bass more. We do have largemouth here. Basically just a bunch of trout, catfish, some small sharks, doing some ocean fishing, but never gone deep sea fishing. So just mainly just little lakes and trout fishing is all I've ever done. Do I watch or listen to movie review podcasts or YouTube movie reviews? No, not really, Ernesto. No, I watch a lot of YouTube families on TV. So if you guys saw my personal things that I subscribe on my personal YouTube account, it's lots of family vlogs like Roman Atwood, even though he hasn't made videos in a while. Demolition Ranch, Off the Ranch, Matt Carricker, his family, we watch them a lot on YouTube. I watch a lot of on the Smithsonian channel. They have a YouTube channel, and they've been doing, I think it was Smithsonian channel. They did what was it? I'll think of the name. I already plugged it one time before, but they do this where they go over certain states, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's a really cool like hour-long video on the states and different things, the cool things, features about the states. Todd the Gamers, thanks so very much for that super chat, man. I really appreciate it. What's my favorite Linkin Park song? My favorite Linkin Park song. Let me think about that one. That's an interesting one. What would my favorite Linkin Park song be? I really like when Chester slows down and sings. When Chester was singing by himself was really awesome. I'm trying to think of an actual one that I can think of the name of right now. I can't think of a name of one right now. But I know I really, really dig when Chester slows down and sings, for sure. Would I consider throwing down with an employee? No. I'm not a violent person. No, I'm more of a verbal than a violent person, for sure. Did I purchase a kayak yet? No, Ian, or I can't find a dang kayak. So I'm interested in 2 kayaks. I'm interested in a Malibu Stealth 14, and I'm interested in a Bonafide, I think it's the SS 127, and neither of them are in stock anywhere. Of course, if I had the money, I'd like a freaking Hobie kayak, you know, their fancy fishing one with a 360 drive, but those things are almost $5,000 for a Hobie with a 360 drive. Insane. So the Malibu and the Stealth are the ones. I mean, the Stealth and then the SS 127 are the 2 that I've kind of decided on, but they just don't. Nobody has them in stock. So really appreciate it, Adam. Thanks, bud. No, so I didn't do that. You know what, Dylan Hall? Actually, I have been watching Adam Savage's Tested for sure. That has been really cool. Watching him. It's if you guys don't know, Adam Savage is from Mythbusters. It was him and Jamie. They did the show together, and they split up. They had like a shitty separation, but they're doing their own thing. And Adam's doing the Tested show, and he's been doing really good, really interesting. He does it's kind of cool to watch him just think and how he builds things and the process he goes through and stuff. Guns N' Roses Sweet Child. See, Guns N' Roses Sweet Child is not a favorite of mine. I really like that, but I'm more of a November Rain. November Rain, like the slow ballads. When there's something about when I can hear like a hardcore rock band do a slow ballad, I really dig those. So Guns N' Roses November Rain is a huge one for me. And then Get in the Ring is another one that's great by Guns N' Roses. That one's just a great pump you up song. Kind of like the Offspring. The driving song. What's the name of the driving song by Offspring? That's another one too that pumps you up for sure and gets you moving. Yeah. Okay. Did I stop in RSD Riverside today? Probably around 10:30 a.m. A van with my letters drove up and then just turned right around quick. Yeah, Sean, that was me. I was driving to RSD in Riverside. It was funny, and I was meaning to go back to my office. And just force of habit, I was kind of zoned out, and I just pulled into RSD. And then I'm like, wait, I'm not supposed to be here. I was supposed to go to my office. So yeah, then I turned around and drove out, and then actually ended up having to go back to RSD because I was going to my office to look for a part before I went and purchased it from RSD. So next time you see me, dude, stop me and say, hey, tell me what's up. Oftentimes I'm oblivious when I walk into supply houses because I kind of am in the zone. So if any of you guys ever see me out in the wild, make sure you stop me and say, hey. When I'm buying the Hellcat. I'm not into Hellcats, dude. If I had my dream car, I'd get a VW bus or a 68 Fastback. That'd be my 2 dream cars. All right. Kid Rock. Kid Rock has some good stuff. Kid Rock has some songs like the one that he did with Sheryl Crow was pretty cool. And then he has a couple where he slows down. I really liked Kid Rock when he sang more Southern rock and country than anything. So every once in a while, if you listen to some of his interviews and different things like that, Kid Rock will get away from the rap stuff. I'm not a huge fan of his rap music, and I like more because he's such a great Southern rock guy, you know, and he does such a great job. When Kid Rock, he did a song where he did a mashup between Werewolves of London and Night Moves, right? I think it was Night Moves and Werewolves of London, and he did like this mashup. That was such a great song that he did. Such a great song. I think it was Night Moves, right? I think so. Such a great song. So I like Kid Rock. I think he's a great country and Southern rock singer for sure. That's a bummer. Dan Young, but I love November Rain, man. So, all right. Let's see what else. What do we got in here? Kid Rock, Avenged Sevenfold. Yeah. No, I think maybe like one of their popular radio songs in the late 90s when they first came out, but no, I'm not a huge Avenged Sevenfold. They're a little bit too death metal-y-ish for me. So, what is my everyday carry? Well, I don't carry a gun if you're asking that, but as far as my everyday carry that I carry with me, always have 2 sets of keys because I'm an idiot and I lock myself out of my van too often. And then just a pocket knife and a flashlight. That's all I carry on me, really. My wallet, my side pocket. I wear cargo pants and my phone in my other side pocket. You wish you could meet me in person, but you're not in California. Right on, Gabe. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So you keep asking questions, I'll keep answering them, but I'm about out of topics to talk about. I covered everything I needed to talk to. So what do we got going on in here? Tool. Okay, yeah. So the Tool Enema album was that was junior high for me when Enema came out. And Enema is such a great album. Just everything about that. The bass tracks in that, such great stuff. Yeah, I really like Tool, especially I think it's Anima album. I don't think it's actually Enema. I think it's Anima. But yeah, that album's awesome for sure. Do I listen to jazz? No, don't listen to jazz. Let me see what else. Let's see. What's my everyday kid? Nope. Answering that. No, I'm not getting a gun out. That's for different shows. You gotta be careful, man. YouTube kicks you out for that kind of stuff now. Let me see. Show off my legal firearms. No, not on a YouTube live stream, because I don't have a lot of guns, to be honest with you. I have a few handguns. That's about it. Nothing too fancy. I am very, very proud, though. I have I think it's from 1944, if I remember right. U.S. government issue M1 1911. Awesome handgun. Really do love that gun. That is my favorite gun. It was passed down from my grandfather. Actually left it to my brother, and my brother got a bunch of other different guns, and I actually asked my brother if I could have that one because that is my favorite gun. It is so cool just to hold history like that in your hand and to know that it's been more than likely used, you know. That was an awesome one, and it's just a beautiful handgun by itself in general. Great handgun. Really love it. It's so easy to take apart. I remember the first time I took it apart, never even read anything or watched a video, just started kind of figuring it out, and it just comes apart so easily, you know. The only problem with the 1911 is, in doing research on it and stuff, is that really the whole gun's probably not from the 40s because there was so many interchangeable parts and they constantly rebuilt them, the reading that I've been doing about them. So basically, you know, there's parts from everywhere because they were so interchangeable on that. So I know that the stock, because of the printing on the stock itself, is from the 40s, but I don't know the rest of it. So, but yeah, great handgun. That's my favorite one. All right, let's see what else we got in here. When was the last time I had a rash? Joe, the last time I had a rash, I got one on my inner thigh right now, really high up on my inner thigh. It's like a heat rash, if you want to know about that. All right. No. Does Cali have a limit on clip size? Yeah, Cali does have. I think is it 7 or 6? I think. I can't remember. Let's see what else. Let me see. Also have some other stuff that was passed down too. Some World War II artifacts. Interesting stuff. I gotta be careful about saying some of that stuff because I don't know if you're supposed to have some of those artifacts from the enemy in World War II. Not that I support anything that the enemy had, but I do have some artifacts from the enemy, if you guys know what I mean, from World War II. Let's see what else. Pineapple on pizza is amazing. All right. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so very much for coming into the stream. I'm going to go ahead and cue up the outro music, and we will catch you guys on the next one. If y'all could do one thing, if y'all could take one thing from my videos or my live streams, please stop, take a second, take a step back, and look at the big picture. You guys get the whole pumped up kicks like backward. It's like pumped up kicks but backwards. It's weird. That's a whole weird thing. So I don't really got much else to talk about as far as an encore goes, but right on. Yes, Connor, you and Ike are the best mods on Discord. Definitely for sure. If you guys don't already know, we have a Discord server. It's kind of like a giant chat room, just like this YouTube chat that's going on. You guys can pop on there. If I was cool, I would have the Discord link, but I guess I can pull it up real quick. And let me push pause on this, and I can show you guys the Discord link. It should be right here. Pre-show Discord link. We usually, I didn't do it today, but we usually hang out on Discord before. I'll post the link in here real quick. Control V. You guys can feel free to join the server and hang out. Man, I'm so ready for the summer to be over. It's so freaking hot. It's ridiculous. And I have like, it's funny though, because I'm not as busy as I want to be. It's really weird. We're kind of slow right now, but we have a lot of work, but it's all technical stuff that like I have to do. So it's just kind of a headache. But today was just ridiculously hot, man. It was just insane. And tomorrow is supposed to be the hottest day of the week. It's supposed to be nuts. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, pumped up kicks for sure. So let's see. What area is my office? Curious what areas I service. So Israel, we're in the Inland Empire. So the IE, we're located in Riverside, actually. So my main service area is the Inland Empire and South Orange County. Basically, I don't go past the 57 freeway, or I prefer not to go past the 57 freeway. But my general service area, I have a location in Temecula. I have a location in that I don't service anybody else, but I have a location in La Quinta, California. I have a location in Barstow, California. And then I do, let's see, Glendora, La Habra, and then Orange, and then down to Mission Viejo, and then everything in between. But I like some of those areas, like I don't go out to Barstow for anybody but the one customer I have. So I don't service anybody else out in that area. Even up in the high desert in Victorville, I don't service anything other than the 2 customers I do work for up there. So we do mostly chain restaurant work. So we just help out in certain areas when they need someone. So can't figure Discord out. Makes so sense. Just get notices when people leave or join. What am I doing wrong? Joe Smith, it is kind of it's a learning curve for sure. So I am not the person to explain Discord. I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to Discord. I have my buddy Ike and Connor in here that kind of help me out with that stuff, and they Ike runs the Discord server. So it's just a giant chat room though. But as far as how to work it, I'm not the person to ask because I'm an idiot when it comes to the technology that stuff has. But, all right, I could Iowa if they got blew away. How many shirts do I sweat through in a day? I don't actually. I wear an Under Armour undershirt, like a black, like, not Lycra, but I don't know. It's an undershirt, whatever, spandex or whatever the Under Armour shirts are or something like that. And then I wear a long sleeve work shirt. And I typically only have to change my shirt if it gets really dirty. I don't sweat a lot when I'm working for the most part. That undershirt pulls most of the sweat away and doesn't ruin the outside shirt. So, rule number 3 of Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club, Adam, or what? So, yeah. All right, for real though, guys. I am gonna bounce out of here because I need to go eat dinner. So I really appreciate you guys coming in. I'll give you one more encore of the cool music, and then we're gonna queue up. How do I figure out this stupid thing? Cue that over, and if I push this button, that happens, and we will catch you guys next time.